Hello and welcome back to the Dugout podcast. This is episode number 61. And today we're here to talk about all the SPFL action over the weekend, some refereeing decisions. Rangers' dreadful run continues, a late winner for Celtic to put them back top of the league. And today I'm joined by Ethan Barlow. How are you doing, Ethan?
Yeah, good. Another, entertaining week in terms of a lot of things. Refereeing decisions definitely at the centre of it, and we'll get on to them. How's yourself, Alex?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. And I'm extremely happy and pleased to say we're joined by Laurie Finlayson, who could make it on for an appearance today. Of course, Laurie's moved more into a producer's role, but obviously a lot of talking points from the weekend. So we've brought him out to talk about give his raging thoughts on Kelly. Laurie, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Good to be back as well. Actually, giving my take on the pod. Although I will say I'm a little bit calmer and a little bit drier than I was yesterday. I mean, doing the Kelly View live at 8 o'clock, I was still raging.
I'd imagine so. I'm sure we'll get on to that later on in the episode. But I think we'll start off with probably the worst, well, definitely the worst game of the weekend. Aberdeen nil, Livingston nil. Not really to talk about much in this game, except Jerome Prior had a really good game. I thought he made some really good saves. Saw a little flash of Jasper Carlson, the one where he actually took it over Prior and then just hit the shot wide. Unfortunate for him. But yeah, other than it's a decent point for Livingston, Ethan, but there's not really much talking points in the game. But you did mention before we came on, the main talking point is Jimmy Tillene and Aberdeen's horrible start to the season.
Yeah, bottom of the league. They've got Europe to come, which going off the recent history of Scottish clubs, barring Celtic and Rangers in Europe, it does seem to have an effect in domestic terms. And they've spent a lot of money. They've brought in a lot of quality, and the results still aren't coming Jimmy Tilline's way. So he's going to be under massive pressure from the Aberdeen fans, and rightfully so. Back-to-back games at home to the newly promoted sides in the league, 1 point from a possible six, and I know they got a red card against Falkirk a fortnight ago, but yeah, the results aren't good enough for Aberdeen. They're bottom of the league. They've not scored a goal yet.
No,
Am I correct?
they're the Scottish Aston Villa, you could say.
Yeah, not scored a goal yet. So yeah, it's really not looking good for Aberdeen at the moment. But they have got immense quality throughout that squad. They had three new debutants starting at the weekend. Jasper Karlsson, as you said, Kevin Nisbet, and Emmanuel Gyamfi, who was signed quite a while ago from Schalke, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I think he had an injury, so his first Premiership start for him. I think he might have played in some of the friendlies, but and then Stuart Armstrong comes off the bench, so shows the players that they've signed even in the last few days of the window and the quality they've brought in as a whole. They've got a really good squad there, and they really should be doing a lot better than they have been. But credit to David Martindale still going there and getting a good point for him, and it's been a decent start for Livy as well. So yeah, but Jimmy Tillene under immense pressure early on this season.
Yeah. Um, and it's not great considering you did mention all the debutants there and stuff and the quality that they have. So it's I think it will get more concerning if we don't see any progression in the near future. Because we can see as individual players, they do have a really good squad in there, and we've seen from their times at other clubs and even at Aberdeen, where obviously Nisbet's just back in the door, but he had a good season last season, and um, a lot of the players who were in the squad last season had a good season last season. So if they don't turn it around, Laurie, it could get really, really, I don't know, nervous times for Jimmy Tillene, dangerous times.
Yeah, definitely dangerous. And not just dangerous for Jimmy Tillene or even Aberdeen fans. I'd say it's dangerous for quite a lot of those players, actually, even the new ones, because I would say And I know I'm jumping the gun here, and this could get clipped up at some point. I'm well aware of that. But if Jimmy Clean were to leave, it feels like a lot of those players would maybe not necessarily go with him, but like you kind of get this feeling where maybe another manager, unless you get someone with a very similar kind of background to Celine, wouldn't really want those players. And then it runs at risk where Aberdeen, and there's always one club like this in the Scottish Premiership, where Aberdeen, like they did a few years ago when they were in Europe, under Barry Robson and then Neil Warnock and all the rest of it, become that almost basket case club. And I'm not saying they're going to be that, but like that's kind of the risk that Aberdeen run at this point.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely that Scandinavian influence there from Jimmy Tillene with a lot of his players that he's brought in last season and this season as well. So yeah, it could spell the end for a lot of them if he sees the exit door. Uh, just on, I think we'll just give Livingston a bit of credit. They've actually been fairly solid this season. Overall, I'd say they seem like they're tough to beat. They make it difficult, just maybe lacking a little bit of quality at the top end of the pitch. But Ethan, they've made a decent start. I'm sure if you showed a Livingston fan, their form going into the season, they probably would have taken it.
Yeah, exactly that. Just sitting, well, goal difference outside the top six is nothing to be sniffed at for Livingston. I think a lot of us tipped them to be second bottom or a little bit higher than that, possibly. But yeah, they're in a good place. And I know it's really early in the season, but they've shown promise. They've obviously brought in a lot of players, 15 around that number. They had another debutant, I think, at the weekend, Mohamedou Sissoko, who came off the bench for the last 18 minutes. But yeah, they've got a decent squad there mixed with some talent that we've not really seen that much in the Premiership. I'm thinking of your Lewis Smith, and then you've got that Premiership experience with your Wilsons and your McGowans and Pryor, as you said, who had a solid game, and he's been really good and a real sort of show of intent that they managed to hold on to him signing that new contract. But yeah, they're in a good place. The only thing disappointing from this game, I think, is we mentioned that we didn't get all four of the brothers on the pitch at the same time, the Yengi and
Well, Cassini wasn't even in
Jenny.
the squad, was he? Uh,
no,
and Andrew Shinnie didn't get off the bench, so
It, it's a shame that the fairy tale story didn't happen because obviously there was a lot of talk in the media about it. I was only aware of it because it came up at David Martindale's presser, but I'm quite sure if you were a reporter covering the game or if you were like friend of this podcast, Stuart Mitchell, tasked with commentating it for the BBC, you were hoping and praying that all those brothers were at least in the squads and they got on the pitch at the same time, weren't you?
yeah,
yeah, it would have been some story, but unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And that probably would have been the most interesting thing that happened in that game. Moving on we'll go to Dens, where Dundee got a point against Draw FC. Motherwell, with their fifth consecutive league draw, I think they've become the only team in the since last century, maybe in the
yeah.
top.
It was this. I think it's six consecutive draws in the league because I think they got one at the end of last
Yeah.
season.
If you let me finish my point, I would have said that. Uh,
Well, you didn't know the stat because you weren't. What's the stat then?
it's so they got six consecutive draws in the league, and they're the only team this century in the Scottish top flight
Yeah,
to do it. See,
yeah,
I
fair
didn't
enough.
know the stat.
Well,
So
you were saying you didn't know, so I was trying to help you. I wasn't trying to cut you off. I was just trying to give you a hand. But no, that's completely right. I
well,
seen that
yeah,
one. A sports scene special that was. Not claiming to have found that myself, but
I claim
yeah,
it.
that's a really interesting stat. It is.
I researched it and actually sent it to Sports Scene. So
Did you? Fair
yeah,
enough. Well, there we go. We have the original creator of that on here.
yeah.
Gonna
So
get a trade a copyright strike now.
can we move on? So Motherwell took the lead. A nice goal from Tawanda Maswanise. He's been in really good form recently. I think 3 in his last 3. He accelerated past the Dundee defence to put it away for 1-0. Maybe you could blame the defenders a little bit for that. Because it did seem like he was just, strolling. Well, not strolling, but it was a good bit of acceleration. But I think he passed 3 or 4 players in that, and you just need to get someone close to them, get someone in front of them. But unfortunately for Dundee, that wasn't the case. Dundee then decided to show up in the second half. A nice cross from Cameron Congreve to a player that's been in the media a lot, touted for his potential, 21-year-old defender Luke Graham. A really nice header from him to equalise. And then that'll take us out. It'll take us up to the 85th minute, where Jan Danda was given a straight red card. I think before we just talk about the game, I'll come to you guys and we'll just talk about this, because I think this is one of the interesting talking points of the weekend. I'll come to you first, Laurie. What do you make of the decision to send Jan Danda off?
It's a tough one because he does get the ball, but it's really a question of how much of the Motherwell player does he subsequently catch. And I will say, and I'm not trying to stick up with the officials here, or have I got Jan Danda, he does have a wee bit of previous for challenges like this and a wee bit of like almost petulance in him. I remember being at a game last season, he was playing for Hearts. It was Hearts against Kilmarnock at the end of last season, and he does get sent off for a much worse challenge than that one, where he catches a guy who's now technically a Hearts teammate of his, 'cause he's still on loan at Dundee, Stuart Finlay, where he caught him, but it was much more cynical than that. Where I don't think the challenge on Saturday was anywhere near as cynical or as dangerous. It
No.
was a genuine attempt to play the ball, but it's one of these ones. I feel like, especially in the landscape of where we are now, where games are arguably almost re-refereed, a lot of those sort of challenges do end up getting the red card, whatever happens.
Yeah, I think Ethan, in this scenario, it wasn't malicious, but it would fall maybe into the category of reckless endangerment from Jan Danda.
Yeah, quite possibly. I don't personally think it's a red card. I think it's really harsh on Yandanda. I think he gets the ball, and I understand if he's coming in with excessive force and endangering an opponent, but I don't think he's really flew into the challenge that sort of strongly. And maybe I'm being a bit lenient with him, but I just think it's really harsh, and I don't think it's a red card because he gets the ball, and yeah, and there's always going to be contact and challenges sometimes, and yeah, I just think it was a really harsh one, but luckily it didn't make too great an impact to the overall outcome of the game, this one. But yeah, I think it is really harsh on the Andander personally.
I just think the follow through and the way the boot's like flat and goes into the ankle um, is the reason it's.
I guess that's why it would tip into endangering the safety of an opponent, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. I think it's slightly harsh as well because,
Hmm.
I mean, I've been on the end of a couple of challenges like that, and I've probably put in quite a few myself. I wouldn't probably at the time would have just wanted a yellow for the guy against me, or wanted a yellow for myself or something like that. So it is tough. But I think with that one, the referee made the decision on the pitch, and I don't think there was enough to overturn it. And fair enough to the referee for sticking to his guns.
Yeah, exactly that. Not every decision needs to be changed or needs to go to a review. It probably, in all fairness, wasn't a clear and obvious error. I think it's a soft red card to reduce Dundee to 10 men, but the referees made the decision, and fair enough, the officials have stuck with that. So yeah, can't have too many complaints, but yeah, unfortunate for Jan Dander that he's going to miss a couple of games because of it.
Luckily, it did come late on for Dundee, so Laurie didn't stop them from getting a decent point. I feel like we've been swaying back and forth on Dundee for weeks. they're rubbish or they're actually half decent. What do you make of them this season, Laurie?
It's hard because um I don't know about yourself, Alex, maybe when they were at Ibrox, but I mean I've seen them in the flesh when they were at Rugby Park a few weeks ago, and it wasn't a great game, and it was 0-0 draw and whatever. But like they were solid. As in from watching, their first few games and especially the League Cup group stage, you kind of saw this team who they looked to be wide open. They were just awful and no cohesion, whatever, maybe too many new players. But things seem to have changed. And I mean, a few weeks ago, I was on the SFF podcast actually hosting, and it was a kind of belated preview of like the so-called bottom four clubs. And I was chatting to, well, the voice of Dens Park, if you will, Ethan Hampton, also part of the Dens Park choir. You'll find him on Twitter and find their podcast and whatnot. And he was talking about how much the Dundee players have actually really warmed to Stephen Presley and how much they enjoy his coaching and his training sessions, whatever. So I think, to be fair, I think us as fans, and maybe the media up here, we've been bad for writing off Stephen Presley because, to be fair, he's not got the greatest record as a manager. And the
No.
guy himself knows that, hence why the famous quote, which I've paraphrased enough times, so I'm not going to. But the thing is, the guy was a coach for like the youth set up at Brentford. So if Brentford are seeing you as a good coach, there's a reason I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dundee's form's really strange as well, and I agree with Laurie. I think maybe we were too quick to write Stephen Presley and this Dundee team off. But the start of the season was such a poor performance against Hibs at home, and then they go to Ibrox and put on a really good performance, unlucky not to take away 3 points probably on the day. Then against Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, a bit of not really much going on in that game. Laurie would probably be able to tell me how much better the game was, but an okay performance. And then in the Dundee derby, they were terrible. Dundee, possibly the worst performance of the season. And it just felt like they were going backwards again, back to that negative energy around the club. And I know Dundee United have proven in recent weeks that they are a team to be reckoned with, and we'll get on to them. But yeah,
I,
going against a Motherwell team.
I think Dundee United for me this season are the chaos team of the division. It just seems like, you know what I mean? Seems like whenever
But
they're going to play, there's going to be goals involved.
is then
Yeah,
Dundee United, we'll get to them, of course, and back on your point completely, Alex, right? But you do get to a stage where they are going to be that chaos team because every game is involving some drama, and even my dog's getting involved. So my apologies if you hear her in the background, but it just shows the chaos of Dundee United. I mean, Terror is their nickname for a reason.
Yeah, and maybe they've taken up the role of their street rivals, I'll call them, because obviously in
Yes.
previous seasons, Dundee were the chaos team of the division under Tony Docherty. So now
Yeah, there's
maybe it's
maybe, I don't know, there's maybe something in the water on Tannadice Street. And yes, that is the name of the street, not just the name of one of the stadiums. But yeah, there's maybe something in the water there. Well, there's not really much there because you can't even park your car on that street. So yeah,
mm, sorry to cut you off there, Ethan.
no, I wasn't going to say it. I was just going to say that it's really the Motherwell situation is really strange because five draws to start the season. The performances have been there for large points of games, but they just can't get a win. And it's going to be we'll obviously touch on on some of the points in this game. I think both teams had big chances to win the game. Simon Murray had an absolutely massive chance put on a plate by by Congreve, who was the halftime sub that worked perfectly for Stephen Presley with that assist
It was
for
a really
Graham's goal as he made up.
really nice cross, and the header was
Yeah,
classic. You get taught from a young age, head it low and back across, and he
yeah,
absolutely did it.
yeah, and it was good for Luke Graham because I think, as you mentioned, he was maybe the biggest suspect for the Motherwell goal where Maswinese, we know he's a quick player, but he just burst past Graham a bit easily and it's a good finish from him. But yeah, good finish from Graham. And then I think Maswanisi had another big chance to win the game as well. It was a good save by John McCracken. But yeah, it'll be really interesting for, well, both these teams still need a win in the league. Motherwell, maybe more because the performances have been there, and the Motherwell fans will be starting to think, right, when are we actually going to get a win here? I know they've won in the cup in the previous round, and it's the same story for Aberdeen, who they face in the League Cup quarter final at the weekend. Both teams are yet to beat a Premiership club this season. So
know how they feel.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, to
yeah,
be fair, I mean, I suppose weirdness about Motherwell, but at least we've beaten a Premiership club, eh? No, but back to Motherwell, you mentioned him a few times there. Tawanda Maswini saves a player that you looked at last season, who, of course, Motherwell and Stuart Caswell at the time managed to pluck out of the Leicester City youth setup. But you saw him as a quick player who maybe struggled for end product. But this season, in fairness, granted, some of this is in the League Cup, but he's managed to keep his records very similar across both the league and cup. He's done incredibly well, and he's not too far away. I don't think, believe it or not, already from double figures for this season. So this season alone, he's managed to get 7 goals in 10 appearances in all competition. So that's 3 in the Premiership and 4 in the League Cup. So obviously both 5 games apiece, and he's doing really well, and he's already a full international as well, although he has been since 2024 for Zimbabwe. So he's doing really well and a really good find for
Aye,
Motherwell. And he's only 22 as well, so he'll only get better, I would
aye, and
think.
he's one for me that I felt last season he popped up with moments of quality, and you thought he's maybe one for the future, and it seems like he's taken the step this season, and it could be a real breakout season for him. I don't think he's one I would have picked, to be totally honest. Maybe not at the forefront of my mind, but he seems to have taken a step up, and he started the season really, really well.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think he did start. Sorry, Laurie. I think he did start last season really well as well, if I remember correctly. And I was like, oh, who's this guy? He seems like a great signing. And then I think injuries kind of hampered him a little bit, and he kind of fell away for the rest of the season. But if he can keep playing the way he is, then he'll be a massive asset to Motherwell, not only in their playing squad, but possibly as another player they can sell on for big money. Obviously, different scenario to Lennon Miller, but another player who came in, well, a player that came in this window, Emmanuel Longello's looked an excellent threat, attacking the threat. He got the assist. He didn't really do much. He found the ball into Maswinisi, and he sort of done the rest. But that's I think 5 goal contributions already this season from left back. So yeah, he's been a massive addition to James Beff-Velasquez and how he wants to play. I noticed Stephen Welsh also made his debut for Motherwell. So yeah, it is looking good for Motherwell, but they do need to get that win, and I'm sure that'll be what Beff-Velasquez will be drilling to these players at the moment.
I feel like once they do get that win, though, it's going to be like a landslide for them. I feel like that's going to be the moment because I don't know. I feel like in every single game they've played this season, they've perhaps deserved to win. So they could be
yeah,
top right now. Obviously, if buts and maybes and all that. If that famous quote, "If my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike," that kind of thing. But it's oh gosh, I lost my train of thought now.
no, but I'll help you out. It's all good. And I think you're right. Motherwell have deserved more than they've got this season. And that's a credit to, Jens Berthelast coming in the circumstances that he did, kind of building on the work and the foundations, albeit kind of fleetingly, you know, laid down by Michael Wimmer. And they seem to have been, have kind of came forward this season in quite a similar vein to what Wimmer was trying to do, which is real good joined up thinking from Motherwell.
Yeah,
And I will say, for the record, they should have won at Fir Park against Kilmarnock. Kelly was daylight robbery that day. Motherwell were by far the better team.
Yeah, double header against Aberdeen now, so massive 2 games for both managers to sort of, well, for Jimmy Delaney needs results, for James Berthelast he needs wins, because I know the performances have been pretty and we've all gave them rave reviews, but ultimately if they can't get 3 points or advance in the cup, then there's going to start to be big questions from Motherwell fans and further wide as to whether he is really what we're seeing. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, football's a results business, and if you're not getting the 3 points on a regular basis, then there's going to be questions asked.
Yeah, definitely. And those, like you said, those are two massive games. And I really enjoy. See, to be fair, I have really enjoyed watching Motherwell. And Laurie, you mentioned that, in that Kelly game, they deserved to win. And in the Rangers game, they were by far the better team as well. And but Ethan, like you said, though, if they don't turn the performances into wins, there could be pressure on Askew very, very quickly, and it could turn ugly, which you wouldn't want to see, because we want to see more teams playing nice football in the division. Moving on to Falkirk versus St Mirren. St Mirren travelled to the Falkirk Stadium and came away with a 2-1 victory. Declan John, excuse me, gave them the lead in the 64th minute with a deflected free kick. Then Mikael Mandron doubled their lead in the 81st with quite a nice goal, actually. When I was watching it, you know those ones you're just like, oh, that was a nice finish. So that from Mika Mandron, and then in the 88th, Brian Graham pulled one back, but it wasn't enough for Falkirk, and St Mirren get their first win of the season. St Mirren didn't have most of the ball, but I think they had most of the best play, and they deservedly got the victory, Ethan.
Yeah, Falkirk, with the two styles of the teams, I think Falkirk you would have maybe expected to have more of the ball or more of the play, but St Mirren had more of the better chances and took them. I know a lot of fortune attached to Declan John's free kick since he's been back in Scotland. We've seen him scored at least one cracker I can remember against Celtic and Paisley, but this one was less of a classic. I think it was Brad Spencer he gave away the free kick on the edge of the box, and then it deflects off him. Scott Bain has really no chance to save it. And then from that point, St Mirren go and get the second. Declan John turns provider this time. A really nice ball into the box and a good header, as you said, by Mikael Mandron. And it was really poor defended by Falkirk, because I think if Mandron wasn't there to head it in, Killian Phillips was waiting behind him to put it in. So yeah, they switched off and let themselves down at that point with just less than 10 minutes to go. It was probably too tough a task to go and get something from the game. Brian Graham comes off the bench. The 37-year-old super sub gets his first Premiership goal of the season. I was actually looking to see when the last time he scored in the Premiership was, but the sports scene commentator told me. So yeah, 2019 for Ross County. But yeah, a good win for St Mirren, because they did need that, their first league win of the season. They're now up to fourth place, so really good start to the season for Stephen Robinson's players. Falkirk not the worst, they're in ninth, but they do have an extra game in hand to play because of some of the European fixture cancellations. But yeah, a really good win for St Mirren. And Falkirk not too poor, but they maybe would have looked to get another decent result to back up that win at Pittodrie a fortnight ago.
Yeah, Laurie, see for you this season is St Mirren, would you say one of your sort of direct rivals in terms of going for the top 6 places?
Yeah, I would say they are. There's an argument that St Mirren are that wee bit ahead of us, and not just because they've obviously got, victory under their belt, but just because I feel like they'll benefit from something that St Mirren aren't really used to, and that's consistency over the past kind of 3 years or so. Of course, they've, done the consecutive top six finishes. This is quite a real high point for St Mirren, and a lot of that, should be attributed to Stephen Robinson, who St Mirren have done a great job at holding on to and, keeping him on the contract and stuff. So I think
And
St Mirren are definitely one of
they've
Kelly's
backed
direct
him.
rivals, but I feel they're ahead.
They've backed him all the way, haven't they? With a lot of the additions this season. I mean, getting Killian Phillips back was massive.
Yeah.
Miguel Freckleton's been an excellent signing as well. They've brought in loads of strength in the window, and they've really backed their manager.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they backed him probably knowing that there would be teams kind of sniffing around them as well. So it's one of those where he needed that backing
Funny,
to.
when you've
I'm
got
not.
when you've got a good manager and you want to keep him, give him the tools to succeed. It's a funny strategy, isn't it, Ethan?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe maybe he can catch on somewhere.
I know
I don't know. And not too far from Paisley actually.
we're steering away a little bit from the game, Ethan, but it's interesting that the Celtic board haven't clocked on to that one yet, eh?
Yeah, as that's been the topic of the season. Apart from, well, yeah, probably the second biggest, sorry, talking point in Scottish football this season has been the Celtic board and the handlings of everything at the club. And yeah, I think I've said multiple times, and I think you guys agree that it is a strange strategy when you've got a solid manager there that's proven his success certainly domestically and on a European front. Last season, certainly that you wouldn't back him and give him the tools to go and succeed again. But yeah, I think we've spoke about it a lot. But yeah, it's really strange. But relating it back to St Mirren, I think they have made some really good additions. You mentioned a few, Keanu Backus, getting him back as well. They just look like a really solid team, and you pull up the St Mirren lineup, and it's just who's gonna play, you know what their roles are, and they've just got a really strong squad there. I noticed
Well-oiled machine.
yeah, exactly that. And I noticed Marcus Fraser come off at the end of the first half. I don't know what the circumstances were with that. Possibly an injury. Richard King came on, so that could be a concern for St Mirren because he's a massive player for them. And Dan, when is it? Dan in Inlandulu. I don't know how you say it, but he came on for the final 20 minutes to make his debut. The striker they signed on deadline day, and yeah, they're looking really good again for a top six finish, and yeah, you wouldn't put it past them to go and do it again with that four times on the bounce it would be if they managed to do it this season. They're in fourth already,
I think so, yeah.
um,
As
and
for
their players are performing. So
as for Falkirk, obviously losing at home's never great, but they're ninth. They've not started the season too badly. They're ahead of the likes of Rangers, and Falkirk also have a game in hand as well. So yeah, we were talking about Livingston biting your hand off for the position that they're in. I'm sure the Falkirk fans, maybe not like, oh, this is great, but right now, Laurie, I'm sure they're not too upset with being currently ninth place.
No, I don't think they will be. See, Falkirk is such an interesting one this season, and I would love to get your lads' take on it as well as a Falkirk fan. Because if you're Falkirk, what is your expectation after back-to-back promotions and indeed what 3 or 4 years in League One as well? But in terms of everyone was looking at Falkirk as the one that would push on, maybe, and then if you were to swap Falkirk and Livingston around, thus far, people maybe had them the wrong way around. But like Falkirk are a good watch in many ways because they've not changed how they've played, even when they were in League One under John McGlynn. They've stuck to their principles, which really has to be respected. But here's the thing. Is that the right move, or is it a wee bit naive? Is it a wee bit like, and I'm not trying to compare these directly, is it a wee bit like Burnley? And I'm not bringing them up because it's Scott Arfield. Is it a wee bit like when Vincent Company was there and still tried to play like expansive top end of the Championship football in the Premier League and got found out, albeit he did fall upwards. But like, yeah, I think Falkirk will be fine saying that. I don't think they'll go down.
So what you're
But
saying
like,
is John McGlynn's going to be the Bayern Munich manager this time next year?
you never know.
well,
Nah.
you got to put it into scale. So what were they saying? Burnley were bottom of the Premier League at the time, and we're thinking Falkirk bottom of the Premiership. What could they have followed up for McGlenn?
What, like
I
Ajax?
mean, the one that makes sense for McGlynn himself, but this won't happen. The one that makes sense for McGlynn
Club
himself and his
Brugge?
previous history would be a Hearts job, but let's give him Aberdeen, maybe even.
Possibly.
Well, he might be falling down if Aberdeen could
Well,
do
actually, maybe it would be, but yeah, like
their current vein of form.
it's do Falkirk need to actually kind of yes, it wouldn't be pretty football, but do Falkirk need to adapt a bit more rather than hoping the Premiership adapts to them, basically.
Possibly, but it is really exciting to see a team come up and try and play the way that they have. It is obviously bold, and some people would call it stupid, but the times I've seen Falkirk this season, that they've scored some really nice goals and played some nice football. And yeah, they've got a few exciting players in that team.
Rangers right now,
So
they'd rip right through them, I reckon.
what is it?
If they played Rangers right now, they'd rip right through them because Rangers seem to not be able to deal with a team that's on top of them, and we'll get on to that in a minute. But they seem like they're really cracking under immense pressure from any team. I think we've seen it in particular this season against Motherwell and Hearts, obviously the other day. And yeah, if right now I think Falkirk would probably beat Rangers, but obviously Rangers are currently factually the 10th best team in the division, so maybe that's not too much of a task to ask of them. So I think we will, unless anyone's got any more talking points for this game, I think
I
we'll.
just had a a strange stat that I found. The last time these two teams met was in the Championship in 2018, the year St Mirren won the Championship. And funnily enough, despite them winning it, Falkirk won the last two meetings of that season and drew the third. So yeah, St Mirren's first win in four games against Falkirk. But yeah, St Mirren looking really good, and maybe you could make the point that Falkirk could give Rangers a really good game, but at this point, who couldn't in the Scottish Premiership?
Yeah, yeah. That segues us nicely into the game at Ibrox on Saturday, Rangers versus Hearts, the moment where Hearts went temporarily top of the division after a 2-0 victory. I think before we dive into my ranting, we should give Hearts credit. They were brilliant. Pressing Rangers, they were all over them. They were playing some nice stuff. Cammy Devlin was absolutely everywhere. Claudio Braga, top tier. Ocean McKinty, he started tiring a little bit, and then Gassama started to see some of the play, and then McKinty got subbed, but he did deal with Gassama, I thought, extremely well. The centre halves dealt with Bojan Mijovski extremely well. He couldn't get in the game at all, and yeah, it was a really top performance from Hearts overall, Ethan.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think we all are sitting here saying it's. I just said that that any team in the league could give Rangers a game, but you still need to go there and do it. Rangers are still favourites for every game they go into in the Scottish Premiership at the moment, regardless of where they sit in the league, how the performances have been domestically. They are still financially and squad wise ahead of everyone else apart from Celtic, obviously. And even though Hearts have signed big and backed Derek McGuinness a lot since he's made the trip to Edinburgh under Tony Bloom, is investment. They still need to go there and get the result, and that's exactly what they've done. They were the better team and deserved to take their first win at Ibrox since 2014 and their first in the top flight since 2012. And now they are joint top of they were top for the meantime and put pressure on Celtic going to Rugby Park to get a win. And now they're 9 points clear of Rangers, and I think that was the same amount or the most amount that Aberdeen ever got clear of Rangers last season before obviously Aberdeen fell off a cliff and Rangers started well. No, Rangers were probably just consistent throughout, but Hearts that's the big test. We're talking about splitting the old firm, splitting Celtic and Rangers, having a title challenge. It's all about consistency. If Hearts can be as consistent as they have been, I think they've rode their luck slightly at times in the league, and I think they rode their luck certainly on Saturday. But they were more than worthy of the 3 points, and a lot of credit to them.
Yeah, definitely. I think before we just talk through the game, because I think all the main kind of talking points about the game, like refereeing decisions and that. Are sort of in the match analysis. I'm just gonna go on a little rant. How the hell is he still in a job? I don't know if you've saw today, but I've uploaded the TikTok, the Daily Tactics. Andrew Kavanagh, the Rangers chairman, held crisis talks with Russell Martin on Sunday afternoon, and Russell Martin retains the full backing of the Rangers board, which is ridiculous. How can you justify it? It's like it's you know what I'm kind of likening it to. It's like I think just to get through it, every week when Rangers play, I'm just hoping kind of magically something will click and they'll storm in and win 3-0, and then they'll just go on a win and run. Right, that's kind of the delusion that I'm using to deal with a situation. But I'm likening it to the board because they must be having the same delusions because I don't know what they've seen on the pitch. Actually, David Edgar and I think his name Stevie from Four Lads Had a Dream. David Edgar from the Heart and Hand podcast and the press conference really pressed Russell Martin and asked him, what's going on. We've seen nothing on the pitch, and Russell Martin said, "Oh, it's not this. It's a psychological issue," and blah blah blah. And then they asked him would he resign, and he said no. So the only way he's going is if he gets sacked, and it's I think it's crazy. 5 league games without a win is despicable from a Rangers manager. Diabolical. I think for me, he's the worst Rangers manager I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, that'd definitely be a quite fair point to make based off what we've seen.
The only person I would think of that could be worse than with permanent Rangers managers, but I mean, maybe it's about equal. Pedro Caixinha.
Oh, I think he would have won a game.
No, I think he would have won a game, to be fair, yeah.
It's insane. We've seen nothing on the pitch to sort of justify keeping him. Like with Philippe Clement, even when there was like bad spells, and even Michael Beale, I feel like there was something you could latch onto and see. There was little sparks in games and going, okay, if we build on this, and obviously they didn't work out. This is even worse because you can't see anything. The only thing you can pick out is every week there's 1 or 2 decent individuals. There's never like a show in the team. Rangers showed no attacking threat except from a 10-minute kind of spell, and which made it even worse. Russell Martin nullified that by subbing off Jayden Magoma and changing to a 3-3 at the back and trying to cram in as many attackers as he could. And then Rangers offered nothing from then on in. Taylor Asgard was all right. I thought maybe that's him, still got residual actual coaching from the Norway manager, and it's not actually, and Russell Martin's coaching hasn't seeped back into him yet. Gisama, he's always all right. He was unlucky with that effort that hit the post. Magoma was okay. That's about it. And Rangers overall were absolutely dreadful, second to everything. Mohamed Diamande had one of the worst games I think I've seen him have in a Rangers shirt. And yeah, it's just absolutely disastrous. And if it wasn't done before, if I was still clinging on to a little bit of hope, there's no hope that the Rangers can win the league title. I think going to Hibs this Saturday, well, not going to Hibs, going to Ibrox to play Hibs this Saturday, I don't think there's any way that Rangers win the Premier Sports Cup, even if, or the League Cup, we'll just call it the League Cup, we're not commercial here. If Rangers want to win that in any way and they somehow get through Hibs, Russell Martin can't be the manager. It's crazy. Have you? I'll bring it to you guys first. I'll come to you first, Laurie, and then I'll ask Ethan the same thing. Have you guys seen a worse Rangers team like ever, do you think, in your time watching football?
I would say, honestly, no, because it's not fair to compare it to the sides in the lower divisions who were better because they were actually teams united. And to be fair, you managed to get decent SPL players in part, even when you were in, well, what's now known as League Two or was the third division at the time, so even you can't compare that. And obviously, I brought up Pedro Caixinha a moment ago because I honestly thought that was maybe the next worst. But as you say, there was wee green shoots of hope in that team from somewhere. Whereas this is just everyone appears so dejected. The only thing you can compare it to, like, in football at the minute, is what went on at Bayer Leverkusen, of course, where Erik ten Hag got himself sacked after 2 league games. And I remember watching something about the whole Erik ten Hag sacking situation, where it was all this stuff about none of the players or staff or anything warmed to him, and it was after a game. It might have been the game where Leverkusen were 3-1 up and then ended up drawing the game, where Malik Tillman, ex-Rangers player of course, scores, but apparently after the game, honestly looked so dejected and upset and was just done with it. And that feeling of like dejection and just in fact almost nothing going on is almost how it feels like it is at Rangers. Because
Yeah,
they don't feel like a Rangers team. A Rangers team or a Celtic team, you feel like an opposition, should approach them with fear. Like even if you look at my club, if you look at Kilmarnock, we should fear playing Rangers. We should fear playing Celtic. At the moment, Celtic still comes out a wee bit of fear, but maybe not as much. We'll go on to that. But Rangers, I would look forward to playing Rangers. I
yeah.
would
There's
relish
no
it.
there's no fear, and then rightly so, because if you go at this team, they'll crumble.
Yep.
And Laurie, you're talking about the dejection there. Maybe that's the psychological issues Martin's talking about because his coaching's so dejecting uh, that they can't get over that as a group of players. Um, Ethan, I'll pose the same question to you. Is this the worst Rangers team you've ever seen?
That's I'll answer it in that sort of. I'll elaborate on my answer. I don't think it's the worst Rangers team I've seen. No, I think players wise and the capabilities of the players, I don't think so. Because I think in a one-off game, they've still got a lot better players and they can perform to a lot better level. But certainly, stringing a domestic results together, it's the worst Rangers team I've seen. I think the stat was the worst no wins in the opening five for the first time since the 70s or something like that. So
Mm,
yeah, I think that tells the whole story really. Then Russell Martin spoke about the anxiety of the players, and this is something that people have dug up that he spoke about at MK Dons, about at Swansea and at Southampton. And but I don't think that's going to
that
fly
just
with the Rangers fans.
is that just his get out of jail free card?
Possibly, but you can look at he did have periods of success, certainly. Well, all three of those previous clubs in Southampton ended in quite a sour way, obviously. But there is no signs of progress from this Rangers team, and you could even argue, and I think it's a perfectly fair point to say that Rangers have went backwards. I know they put in a decent shift a fortnight ago against a poor Celtic team at Ibrox, yes, but I think that might be players playing with pride that want to fight for the club in a derby match, which means the most to the fans. But I don't think any of the players are really buying into what Russell Martin's trying to do, and you can see that on the pitch. There's no fluidity in Rangers' play. The defending's terrible. The attacking is terrible. Just everything's awful, and Russell Martin can talk the big game and say it's going to get better and give him time, and he's not going to resign, and he's got the full backing of the board. But ultimately, he's lost the support. I would be really interested to see what percentage of Rangers fans still think Russell Martin's the right man for the job, because I believe it's got to be very low. And you look at the end of the match at the weekend, the stadium is mostly emptied. The fans that are still in the stadium make their feelings known by booing. And of course, as we've said on this podcast multiple times, they're right to their opinion. And you can understand why they've got that
I
opinion
think
because,
sorry, I think that sums it up. The Hearts fans enjoying their afternoon, bantering everyone, were singing sacked in the morning. Ibrox joined in. I think that sums up the feelings
Yeah.
of the Rangers supporters.
I think it really does that. Like, if and to me sometimes I get why Russell Martin's not wanting to resign and why he's claiming at the back of the board because he's on the contract until 2028, right? So he's due a massive package if he were to be sacked. I was talking about this yesterday actually. I think at halftime in the Kelly game with the guy who sits beside me, and he's like, football or football management is the only job in the world that actively rewards you for failure. Because if you get sacked, you're getting, well, probably in a lot of cases, seven-figure sums. And
Yeah.
but then you would kind of want to have, you know, if you want to be kind of humble about it, just walk because none of the Rangers fans want you. None of them, clearly. Not none, but you say an incredibly low percentage.
See
It's
though, as well, but as I feel like as he's taken it a bit personally, um, which obviously losing your job is a very personal thing, but see, it's just because of the way he's carried himself and his
yeah,
attitude, and there's zero results, and he seems quite, I don't know. I don't really like throwing accusations around like this, but he comes across quite snobby. Um, if you know what I'm trying to say, and yeah, but if I don't know if the board have seen something and he turns around and he wins every single game for the rest of the season and blah blah blah, not gonna happen, right? Not in a million years would that ever happen. But yeah, it's crazy. I've got a weird shout. This is the point that I've got to where for my replacement manager, I've got a weird shout. Um,
big going.
so just right. So you sack Martin. You want solidity. You want a bit of structure. You want to just win games no matter what. You bring in Sean Dyche. You play 4-4-2. You get Chermiti and Biofsky up top. That's how you do it.
I don't think a lot of Rangers fans would be happy with that, but it's definitely a case that it's a better solution than what's going on now. And I think you made the point about Russell Martin possibly being a little bit snobby, and I think the problem that Rangers fans are really annoyed at him is because he doesn't seem to show any empathy to the Rangers fans as to what they're having to witness. There's no sort of
And he doesn't hold accountability either. He never
no,
makes
he doesn't.
he does anything wrong. I don't think I've ever heard him say that. I think
Yeah,
he always blames the players or he says as a group. He never says himself.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that.
Is in the best example of that, it was a few weeks ago in a press conference, and I remember who it was, so give me his credit. BBC reporter Tom English
Mm.
basically asked him what's improved over your time at Rangers because he makes some general statement, throwaway comment. That's what it is. I'm sorry, a throwaway comment, and he says some things have improved whilst I've been here at Rangers. My staff have been telling me, and then Tom English, quite rightly, asked him, "Well, what's improved then? We can't see anything." And and then he just gives the biggest cop out ever of basically, you need to ask my staff then, 'cause I wasn't here before. That's just telling you all you need to know. He just doesn't want to admit that maybe he's not the only problem, but he's certainly a big part of the problem at Rangers at the moment.
Yeah, and I think we'll get on to the performance and the game as a whole. But yeah, Russell Martin, he is under immense pressure, and it's possibly a similar scenario to what's happening with. You made the point, Alex, and I think Laurie, you made the point as well at Aberdeen, where Jimmy Tilleen has been backed heavily. A lot of the players are his signings, and a lot of the players in that Rangers squad at the moment are Russell Martin signings, and a few of them, well, not a few of them, the majority of them haven't impressed. And yeah, so it's a strange and a difficult place that the 49ers consortium have been put in, but they've got some massive decisions to make. And I think that he'll be given the Hibs game next week in the League Cup. But if he loses that and goes out of the League Cup, then that's the League Cup gone, and I think most people would say the league's gone. I think I know that this doesn't always the be all and end all, but football meets data on X, which is a a sight I enjoy. It gives Rangers a 7% chance of winning the league. So already says how low or how much the odds are stacked against Rangers this early in the season. And if the League Cup and the league's gone, then does Russell Martin really deserve the chance to prove the Rangers fans wrong? I don't think he does. So yeah, I think the experiment will have to end if it doesn't end before the weekend after it, if he doesn't get the result.
Yeah, we spent a bit of time on that, so we'll go through the game. There's some talking points on that about some refereeing decisions. We're just going to take a quick break and then we'll be back. All right, to talk about the game, we did mention just before the major rant how good Hearts were and that they deserved to win. I think we should now go through the major talking points of the game. Hearts took the lead in the 21st minute through Lawrence Shankland. And this, move starts with him. He distributes it to Claudio Braga, who does quite well to cut it back for Shankland, and it was a nice finish. Questionable marking in that as well from Rangers, just adding to the poor defending throughout the entire season that we've seen on display. But the main talking point, Ethan, is the suspected handball in the build-up, and Lawrence Shankland himself admitted that he was a bit nervous because he thought the ball hit his arm.
Yeah, and it is a really strange one because he said it in the his post-match comments. He said it to his teammates when they were celebrating the goal. It looked pretty clear that it hit his hand. I think they've said it's been said it's inconclusive to whether it's above or below the t-shirt line. Is that maybe
Yep,
the
t-shirt line, yep.
contentious element of it? But I don't know. It certainly looks a bit low on his arm, and I think you could definitely make a case that goal should have been ruled out because I don't think the rule of no matter if it hits the rule is no matter of where and how it hits the goal scorer's arm, then the goal will be disallowed. I think it would be different in this scenario because he played the ball to Braga and then Braga played it back to him. So I don't think that would work on this scenario, but I think it does hit his hand. But that being said, as you said, Alex, Rangers still need a lot better from the situation. Shankland plays a nice ball in behind to Braga. He holds it up well, but Rangers have got three players there. Hearts have only really got two. They've got Braga and Shankland. Braga's closed down by John Souttar. His only play pretty much is to play the ball down the line to Shankland, where Shankland makes the run. Mohamed Diamande stays with him from pretty much the halfway line and then just decides to drop in another space to defend and let Shankland make the run. And Shankland, it's an excellent finish, take nothing away from him for his second league goal of the season. But yeah, I don't know what Mohamed Diamande was thinking or doing there. Maybe that's something that comes from Russell Martin, that the coaching is telling, right, okay, you leave Shankland at that point to Nasser Jaziga and John Souttar to deal with. Obviously, Nasser Jaziga can't close him down quick enough, but yeah, some real strange defending there. But yeah, I would agree. I think that goal should have been ruled out. Personally, I think it's a handball, and it obviously is a massive impact to Hearts scoring the goal. So yeah, I think that should have been disallowed.
I think this one for me is the most clear cut of the three decisions of the afternoon, and I think it should have been ruled out. What's your take on it, Laurie?
Yeah, I think the Shankland, one should have been ruled out. I mean, I said straight away that it was a handball. My mum, who's not the biggest football fan in the world, but she goes to the Kelly games, said that was a handball. And the most telling thing of all, and of course, hindsight in a way is a wonderful thing. The man himself, the goal scorer, Lawrence Shankland, admitted to Scotland's media that he handled the ball. So it's one of these things where it was an obvious handball. It was one of these ones where you actually expect VAR to overturn it. When you're just watching the game or seeing the highlights, when you watch that, you think VAR are going to get that. And I'm sure even Rangers fans did as well. You thought, oh, he's put it in the net, but VAR will save us for once, but it wasn't to be for some reason.
No, I
Yeah.
think I just lost all hope. So I wasn't even when I was watching the replay. I was like, oh, did that hit his arm? Nah, they won't overturn that. So
I think the like how much little complaints we've seen. I think Rangers fans are catching on to it now and rightfully voicing their frustrations with some of the decisions on Saturday. But I think the fallout on Saturday was so much toxicity towards Russell Martin and why he shouldn't be the manager that Rangers fans have sort of forgot about the decisions that happened in the game because the Rangers performance was so poor and it overrides anything like a Shanklin handball. But that being said, yeah, as I've touched on, I think we all agree that this was the first decision they got wrong, and it'll be interesting to see what Willie Collum has to say when he meets up with Gordon Duncan again next month.
yeah, moving on to the next big moment of the game, Rangers get an equaliser. Corners played in. It's sort of bounced up into the air. A lot of players wrestling with it, wrestling to get it as it comes down. It comes down, bounces around again. I think it's eventually turned home by Derek Cornelius.
Yeah.
And the on-field decision is a foul on Alexander Swallow, the Hearts goalkeeper. Clean sheet debut for him. Well done to him. I'm sure he'll be happy with that one. But yeah, Telo Asgard was penalised for a push on Alexander Swallow, and the Rangers goal was ultimately disallowed. I'll come to you guys first. I'll come to Laurie first because I don't think my thoughts on this one is what you guys would be expecting. But Laurie, I'll come to you first. What's your thoughts on this disallowed goal?
I don't think there's really too many complaints, although I know, of course, you can say and talk about how goalkeepers can be a bit of a protected species, as you will at times, where any contact near them constitutes a foul.
Species.
However, however, I think the foul was pretty clear on the Hearts' debutant goalie. And to be fair, for a goalkeeper on his debut, by the way, protected or not, he didn't really have that much to do, did he?
No, not at all. I think there was maybe one from Diego Gassama, where he just had to push it wide, but he didn't really have much else to do on the day. Ethan, your thoughts on the disallowed goal?
I disagree with Laurie, and I think I disagree with you as well, possibly. I think it should be a goal. I think it's a really, really soft goal to disallowed because I know Taylor Asgard sort of puts his arm across Swallow, and yes, you could say it's a foul, but Swallow just shoves him away pretty instantly after that, and that wouldn't be given as a foul. So I know we talk about goalkeepers having obviously more protection, and of course I think they deserve slightly more protection than the players, but I just don't really see a foul there. I think it is really soft and unlucky. I can see why they've given it, but I'd be pretty frustrated if that was against my team. So I can understand why Rangers fans have been pretty discontent with that decision. But yeah, um,
I think for me, it is soft. I think it's just the positioning of Telo Asgard's hand. It seems to be at the neck level of Swallow, and I think if you put your hand anywhere near a player, any player on the pitch at that point, it's just a foul because it's. I think it sounds silly saying this because it was such a soft kind of touch, but I think that's veering into the realms of endangering your opponent in a way. I can see Ethan's really
no, I don't think he puts his arm that high. I think it's like upper chest, but I don't think
thought it was
it's.
kind of like here, like just on the base of his neck.
Yeah, it was kind of like there, but kind of like where your collar kind of starts. But
And I did that. I showed my dad. My dad was at the game, and when he came home, he said, "What? Why was the goal disallowed? What did you make of it?" And I went, "Well, Asgard put his hand there," and my dad went, "Oh well, you can't really argue with that then." So, um, Yeah, we're split on this one. I think
I
we
think
might.
this is definitely one like like most of the decisions in this game. I think we all agreed on the handball, but I think this decision and the last one are certainly debatable, and you can make cases for both sides.
Yeah, yeah, you
Definitely.
could. Moving on to Hearts' second goal. We'll talk about the goal first before what led up to it. Lauren Shankland has a penalty saved from Jack Butland. Unfortunately, Butland pushes it back into the path of Shankland, who follows in and puts it away for 2-0, sealing the victory for Hearts on the day. In the lead up, the penalty was given as Harry Milne. They keep getting him and Jack mixed up. Harry Milne runs far too easily. I'll add that before we talk about the actual decision. Far too easily through about 3 players into the box. Mohamed Diamande dangles a leg, catches him slightly. The referee gives a foul on the pitch, and it's not overturned. That has been a bit of a theme of the weekend as well. Referees on-field decisions not getting overturned by VAR, and I don't know if it's just I don't know why you're laughing, Ethan, but I don't know if it's just the fact that I'm just resigned to defeat at this point, but I thought this was the correct decision. You can't dangle a leg like that. I thought it was soft again, but I thought it was a penalty. Ethan?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I've seen multiple points on this, and I can agree with the people who are saying it's not a penalty, soft, not a lot of contact. But I did see one really good angle that was sort of a really low down angle that because there's a Rangers player kind of in front of it that blocks a lot of camera angles of the actual contact. But there was one that showed you that Harry Milne's making a run and Diamande steps across and does make contact. So it's one that's not a clear and obvious error. So I think it's the right decision that we didn't go to VAR, and he's one player that I thought was from the highlights and what I've heard was really impressive playing in an unnatural position as well, because usually you see him on the left side, he's sort of taken over that buff from James Penrice, but playing on the right wing back role, he got a lot of praise from his manager after the game as well. But it was on the left side that he obviously got the penalty, and then Shanklin steps up. Not the best penalty, a good save from Jack Butland, which sums up his season so far. He's doing all he can, but the players in front of him aren't. And then Shanklin follows in well, and at that point it was guaranteed that pretty much that the Hearts were going to take all 3 points and go back to the top of the league.
Yeah. Just before we ask Laurie on his take on it, one thing I'll say about Jack Butland as well and Taylor Asgard, they were actually pictured after the game, sort of speaking to the fans and sort of going, "Yeah, we know it's not good enough," and that's all they can do at the end of the day. So I think that's a touch of class from them. But the thing is, we need to see it on the pitch also. Laurie, what's your take on the penalty?
Yeah, we'll go along with both of you guys because it is very much of a soft variety. There's no getting away from that. But as you said, Diamande dangling a leg is kind of lazy. Just, we've got to look like we're doing something. But sometimes it's better doing nothing, believe it or not. And at the end of the day, it's one of these ones where it's soft, but as we kind of said, it's never going to get overturned with VAR. And to be honest, it's one of those decisions of if the shoe wasn't on our foot and if it was Rangers or any other team wanting a penalty, you in the stand or watching at home would be crying for it as well. So it's one of those, isn't it?
Okay, so we're all in agreement on the handball should have been overturned. We are 2-1 on the Rangers disallowed goal, and we're all in agreement on the Hearts penalty. It was a penalty. Right, so I think that'll wrap up first game. We've spent a lot of time on it. Moving on to game of the weekend, a game of the season contender. Celtic 3, Dundee United 3. Oh, wait, sorry. Sabs actually. I just got confused because of the kit. So, Hibs 3, Dundee United 3 at Easter Road. And this very much feeds into what we were saying earlier, Ethan, about Dundee United being the chaos team of the division.
Yeah, and there was chaos in their recruitment this season, definitely, and off the pitch issues concerning Dundee United. They have brought in a lot of players, got rid of a lot of players, but it seems to be that they're forming a real solid starting lineup and squad together. And yeah, they go to Easter Road, not an easy place to go, and hand Hibs their third occasion of dropping points already. So maybe not the ideal start in the league for Hibs, but they're still third place. They've got a game in hand, as have Dundee United. So both teams, I think, will be happy on an overall and how they've started. But a brilliant game, probably game of the season so far, and a contender for that final award, certainly in the Scottish Premiership anyway. And as you said, I did like the Hibs kit. I thought it was nice. The anniversary hoops.
Did they start like that?
Well,
Did they start like that? Is that
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah. Hibs did, although I think I did see someone moaning that there wasn't enough hoops on it or something. However, most of the reaction had been pretty solid to it. However, what I think quite interesting about this, and we can all debate this, right? Celtic haven't got there yet. Rangers have had the 150th anniversary kit. Hibs have now had one. Kilmarnock have had one. So Rangers did a special edition one, right? Kind of similar to Hibs.
I think our 150th.
It was the year you had the gold stuff, was it not? But I think it was
Yeah,
one that was different, a one-off kit.
yeah, but
Hibs did the kind of,
there was a white one that the Rangers released. I think that was a
oh
tribute to
yeah,
the original one. And then for Ibrox's 150th anniversary, Rangers also released a special edition kit that's more in the vein of a regular home kit, but that one was quite smart also.
yeah, it was probably only worn once or twice or something. And then obviously, well, when Kelly did the 150th anniversary kit, we wore it for the entire season rather than blue and white stripes for one year. It was 2019-20. We wore, well, Oxford blue, which means we look a bit more like Dundee. That kit, a lot of Kelly fans haven't aged too well. But back to the point around the one game or do it for a few games. I mean, of course, Scotland did the 150th kit as well, where they wore it for what, 3, 4 games, and if you include the women's team, and that was it. But here's the interesting thing: I knew nothing about that Hibs kit until the teams came out, but neither did the fans officially, because I noticed Hibs only officially revealed it online 5 minutes after kickoff, and it was put on sale today by Hibs. So I think it was all meant to be a big surprise, and good on Hibs and Joma for that one.
yeah.
That's I like that because
Yeah.
it was like the Luke De Jong transfer reveal. There's so little secrets nowadays in football, so little wonder. So it must have been a nice surprise. Or the Hibs fans got confused and thought they'd accidentally bought tickets to Parkhead. Um,
That
so
was I seen a Habs fan saying, "Should we be shouting, come on the hoops?"
yeah, yeah. But on to the game. Dundee United took the lead through Luca Stevenson. He had a really good game. I'm getting confused. Was the header the first one from him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
So nice header from Lucas Stevenson to give Dundee United the lead, and then Hibs equalise. Yevgeny Kucherenko flapping in the air,
It was a
reminiscent.
game of really poor goalkeeping, I'll give it that.
Yeah, reminiscent of Jack Butland's horror incident against Manchester United from Kucherenko to tie it up in the 27th minute. Hibs went behind again, though, in the 44th, Zachary Satchford. And by the way, the recent Premiership Player of the Month with the assist, Ivan Dolcek, he looks like a player every week. Guys, before we dive more into the game, what do you make of him? He looks fantastic, and the composure to take it round the keeper and then square it for Satchford was brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, he looks a really good sign. And Jim Goodwin's got a knack for this. We've even seen it at Aberdeen, where I know he wasn't well liked, of picking out these, you know, European kind of diamonds in the rough, if you will. And of course, Dolcek won the Premiership Player of the Month for August, and I heard when I was watching the TV coverage on Premier Sports, I think it was Connie McLaughlin, presenter, who said it, that apparently, and maybe Dundee United fan can verify this, apparently Dundee United were trying already towards the end of the window to make his loan permanent.
Yeah,
So
actually,
that is
I
quite
think
something.
they've actually agreed a deal with his current club. Um, if I've not mixed up my reports correct, but if I've not mixed up my reports, but and they are currently in contract negotiations with the player. But however, I think the reports were saying that the reports could extend until even January because of I think perhaps some wage discrepancies.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, yeah, even Dolchek, he does brilliant for that second goal, because I think Amar Fata's looking to play it to Zachary Sapsford originally, and even Dolchek just comes in, takes it off him, goes, "I'll do the hard work for you," and then put it on a plate for you, and that's exactly what he done. And you see the celebration. Zachary Sapsford gives him a wee kiss on the head to say, "Thank you very much for that, mate, because you've just done all the hard work and then put it on an absolute plate for me to up my goal tally." And I think he's been another really impressive signing. But they've all been really impressive signings because they've had such a massive squad turnover, and so many of the new signings made big impacts at the weekend.
Yeah, one you mentioned there as well got the assist for the third goal, and I thought overall he had a good game. Amar Fata, really nice ball from him, and a nice finish from Lucas Stevenson to make it 3. Hibs fought back, however, Kieran Bowie with to make it 3-2 or 2-3 or whatever. Possibly a foul in the build up. However, I think maybe the referee got it just right. I think
Yeah.
it's a difficult one.
Aye, borderline, but that's one of those where you need to trust the official on the pitch. And to be fair, that's kind of how it panned out, isn't it? I would say.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. Laurie took the words out of my mouth. I think not a clear and obvious error, so stick with the referee's on-field decision.
And then we get to for the final goal, we get to the incident leading to it. I'm just going to call him Vic. Uh, Vico Seve.
Yeah,
Seville, Chauvet, don't know.
Vico
Stuart
Vico
Mitchell, help us.
Vico Seve. Was sent off for a handball in the 84th minute on the line. This is an insane decision to me. I don't know what the rule like if because he's denied a goal scoring opportunity or whatever. But for me, it's even I don't know. It's even the decision for handball for me is even a wee bit dubious.
Aye, it's a dodgy handball. And I think you're right, though, as to why he was given the red card. I think the red card was one of these technicalities. And I know he was trying not to be too angry on the pitch, but if you look at Chauvet himself, he was actually laughing at the referee on the way off. And then almost giving the impression of, what did I do wrong?
Yeah,
And I think he's got a point.
couldn't believe.
yeah. And I completely agree. And I think this goes back to a decision that I think was earlier in the season, which we might get on to later on. The penalty that Rangers got against Allo Athletic for the handball, which I didn't think was a penalty at the time, because I think I can understand. See if the ball hits the hand and it's going towards goal, it's on target. Then I understand giving it, but I'm watching the replays. I'm not even sure if Kieran Bowie's overhead kick is on target, and Vico Seve can't really do anything to get his hand out of the way. So I think it is really harsh to even give the penalty, and it's ridiculously harsh to give the second yellow card. It's the same as the Alexander Jensen one in Europe against FCSB away. I just don't know why you need to send them off. Like I don't understand it. But surely the aim is to try and keep 22 players on the pitch, and yeah, just no need to send them off there. And yeah, really unfortunate. A double blow for United, and then obviously McGrath converts the penalty.
Yeah, McGrath steps up, puts it away for 3 each, and that is that for the most entertaining game of the weekend. another 3 each, involving another Edinburgh club. So yeah, this one was perhaps a little bit more back and forth, although Hibs did need to come back just like Hearts did. So yeah, a lot of goals, and that's what we do like to see. Just unfortunate that all 22 men went on the pitch for the whole duration of it, because that is something that we like to see as well. I think it was fortunate it didn't maybe affect the flow of the game too much because it was towards the end. But yeah, it just feels like sending off players for the sake of it. Try everything you can to keep 11 men for each side, because that's how we're going to get the best quality of football. If it's inexcusable, I think that's the reason the red card should be there, for like inexcusable sort of challenges, or like super deliberate handballs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like I mean, no one argues with it if you 2 foot someone, do they?
No,
Like,
no.
Yeah, exactly that. That's it. I completely agree with both of you. I think we should be keeping players on the pitch, and Vico Savade just didn't deserve to be sent off, and yeah, really unfortunate. But as we said with the Yandanda one, luckily enough, it didn't seem to affect the game too much, of which was a really good game. Hibs third draw of the season already. They're 7 points behind Hearts, but they do have that game in hand, so they want to close that gap to their rivals with the imagine the Edinburgh derby's coming up pretty soon as well. And United seem to
it's
be
in
really
October, I
exciting.
think.
October. United seem to be out of their European hangover phase, and they look like they're going to challenge for Europe again. So, two really exciting teams. A few players that I wanted to highlight from both teams. Lucas Stevenson, I still can't believe that Dundee United managed to get him back, because during pre-season he was playing a lot of minutes for the Liverpool first team, and now he's back on loan at Dundee United. And as I said, he was one of the standouts with his 2 goals. Yevgeny Kucherenko, he's one of the few Dundee United signings that hasn't convinced me so far.
Looked really
He loves,
shaky in multiple games.
yeah, he loves to punch the ball as well. He's always flapping at stuff, and it doesn't really fill your defenders with a lot of confidence. And obviously, he puts the first Hibs goal in his own net. I thought it was Rocky Bashiri got another goal. Which would have been his fifth in 10 games this season, which is ridiculous for a centre back. And Amar Fata, I'm glad he's broke into the team now, and is starting to perform well, because he's one that when he came after having a brief trial at Manchester City, or well, being on the City being on the City group and going to play for Man City for a summer. He's obviously a talented player, and he's now showing that, as are a lot of the Dundee United signings.
He seems to have bounced back as well after that sort of heartbreaking penalty miss in the shootout, also against Rapid Vienna.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're in a really good place, Dundee United, and there was a few question marks from, I think, ourselves amongst most people about the signing policy, but they look like they've got some real great players in their hands.
Is
And for Hibs,
is Kucherenko Angus Gunn in disguise, do you think?
I mean, it does. I'll say it right. Having seen him in the flesh when Kelly and Dundee United played during the League Cup, he is a bit like that because he's really resistant to getting pressed. He doesn't like holding on to anything. I mean, he punches a lot, but like
Mm,
it's football. It's not. We're not talking about like combat sports here. You can grab the ball,
yeah,
and he doesn't do it very often though.
no. That was one of my pet peeves about Angus Gunn against Denmark. But yeah, final game of the weekend. Laurie's Kilmarnock hosted Ethan's Celtic at Rugby Park, and Celtic came away the 2-1 winners. Celtic plugging away, finally get the opening goal in the second half. Really nice header actually from Daisen Maeda. Kilmarnock equalised in the 83rd minute, and I'm sure at that point Laurie's thinking, "Oh, we're getting away with a draw here."
I was, to be honest, yeah.
David Watson with a really good header as well to make it one each. And I'm sure we're going to debate till the sun comes down about this last one. Before we talk about that, should we just talk about the game? I'll throw it to you guys because you guys are, you both probably were watching it with a bit more intent than I. So, what do you think?
On
Laurie?
you go, Ethan. You want me to go? Right, I'll go. I'll go for it.
Yeah,
Right.
on you go.
So basically, I kind of thought Kilmarnock played really well, and I felt that Celtic were actually, you can go if you want. I thought Celtic were actually very, very flat. Not like Kairat or Matty levels of flat, but as Celtic teams go, flat. And of course, he's had more chances than ours, just had more of the ball, blah blah blah. But I mean, it's one of these ones where, come on, look, any team up against Celtic, you go in with a game plan and just to frustrate you guys, and eventually it worked. And one little observation, and we didn't score off this, but I spotted something. It's something that we've not done for a long time, and fair play to Stuart Kettlewell for bringing it back. David Watson was on long throws again, right? And obviously a couple of years ago, we caught you guys out, I think more than once with a David Watson long throw. And you've still not learned from that. Just saying.
Yeah. No, I think Celtic were. I actually think Celtic were pretty good by recent standards, and I know that is very low standards by Celtic's usual. And I think it was a good performance as far as Celtic at Rugby Park goes, because I think Celtic look at that fixture as an uncomfortable one you just want to go there and get 3 points. And it looked like once Maeda got that goal, which was a really nice cross from Marcelo Saracchi, who was one of the more question mark selections. The two fullbacks were both Kieran Tierney drops out, Anthony Ralston drops out, as they both did out of the national team. Ralston wasn't in the squad. Tierney eventually came off the bench and was pretty poor, I have to say. And then on the wings, it was Sebastian Tenetke who got his debut, and Mikael-Ange Balikwisha.
Sebastian Tenetke in little flashes, you could see a player.
Yeah, he looked all right. The guy, you just say his name, the Celtic number 10, you just say his name there, double barreled name, Ethan. He looked horrendous, I
Mikael-Ange
thought.
Balikwisha.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I think, as Alex said, Sebastian Tenetke looked really, really good. He was probably, along with on a Kilmarnock side, David Watson, I thought was especially good, even out with the goal. Sebastian Tenetke, he just was everything that Celtic haven't been recently. He wanted to go forward. He wanted to take on his man. He gave James Brown, who I think it was his Kelly debut, was it? I heard you saying the other day, Laurie.
Yeah, it was his debut. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it gave him a tough afternoon. He didn't have that end product though, and I think that's possibly what we've seen from him at Hammarby. But I think he's a young player that's developing. I think that'll come. But yeah, he definitely looked good. Mikael-Ange Balikwisha, on the other hand, as Laurie said, didn't look too good. But I think I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a left winger. He always has been a left winger throughout his career, and he's having to be shooed in at the right wing. I think that shows the state of Celtic's transfer affairs. But yeah, getting back to my point, it was a good ball by Marcelo Saracchi, and a really good header by Dyson Maeda. He probably needed that after the talk throughout the week, throughout the international break, after what he said, that he wanted a move away from Celtic Park, which was ultimately blocked by the club, even though he made it clear back in February that he wanted to move on. And I thought Celtic were pretty comfortable up until maybe about 70 minutes or so. Then Kilmarnock had a flurry of good chances and got themselves back into the game. I still thought that Celtic were going to see out the game and get a win, which I thought at the time probably would have been merited. But Kilmarnock made a real push and created some really big chances. David Watson gets the goal, an unlikely source from a header from a corner of someone of his height, but it was a good header, and I thought he deserved it because he was one of the standouts, as I mentioned. And then obviously Celtic, even though it looked like Kilmarnock were going to maybe push for a winner, Celtic get the penalty, which I think we'll discuss. And Kelechi and Nacho, who I've got to say looked, I don't mean to be mean, but he looked miles off it when he came on off the bench. He looked like a player that's not played a lot of football, that hasn't been fully fit or match fit, but Brendan Rodgers trusted him to step up, and ultimately you don't need match fitness for a penalty, and yeah, so he converted, and Celtic take the 3 points, which they got away with one, Celtic, and whether they deserved to get that luck, I really don't know. But it's so harsh on Kilmarnock because they were really resilient to get that equaliser and fight back late in the game.
Moving on to the biggest talking point of the game, possibly one of the biggest talking points of the weekend, Celtic's aforementioned penalty that Kelechi Iheanacho dispatched really well. Might I add, really nice penalty from him. The question is whether it should have been a penalty. I think it was Kobe Donovan driving into the Kilmarnock box. I think it shot across, whatever it is deflected up into the arms of Lewis Mayo, and Celtic are awarded a penalty after VAR review, if I'm correct. And for me, this one is it's crazy. I don't know. I don't think it's ever a penalty in a million years. It's the fact that the effort is on the ground. It's deflected up into Lewis Mayo's arms. Off of his team. Off of his.
I'm going to say not directly to Lewis Mayo, off his teammate.
Yeah, off of his teammate, and it's been awarded as a penalty. If it was directly into Lewis Mayo, fine. If it came off a Celtic body and it was maybe on target into the arms of Mayo, fine. I'd still maybe debate it, but yeah. But it's for me, it's not a penalty, and it's really, really harsh on Kilmarnock, really harsh on Lewis Mayo, and I think as well this goes back to the whole thing, clear and obvious error. I don't even think that comes under. I don't know if I'm going so far in the opposite direction, but I don't even know if that comes under that category. I'll come to Ethan first because I'm sure Laurie's got a lot to say on it. But Ethan, you're on the other side of the divide of this. What did you make of the decision?
Yeah, I think I think it was James Forrest, I think actually that had the shot. And at the time when I seen it, I thought, okay, that was probably not going to get given. And then seeing the replay, and I thought the ball was actually heading towards goal when Robbie Dees sort of kicked it and stopped James Forrest's shot. But since I've seen a few replays and I've seen that wasn't going towards goal, and I mentioned this earlier, I don't really see the need to give a penalty. I think the only case that would be a penalty is if Robbie Dees has deflected his effort to stop the James Forrest shot was going towards goal, and it would have been on target, but it wasn't going to be on target. It was just going away across the box, and Lewis Mayo can't do anything about it. I think Lewis Mayo and Robbie Dees are in. They run the risk because they have their hands out, but it doesn't hit their hands if a direct of James Forrest striking the ball, and there's nothing Lewis Mayo can do to get his hand out the way once it deflects off Robbie Dees and up into his arm. So I don't think it should have been a penalty, no, and I think it is really harsh on Kilmarnock. Originally, I thought it was a penalty, and until recently, I did think it was a penalty, but my opinion's since changed, and I do think Kilmarnock were very hard done by. And when you couple that with the fact that the first goal comes from a Celtic throw-in that was actually a Kilmarnock throw-in, and I know Kilmarnock shouldn't stop playing, they need to play at the whistle. That's just another thing that kind of went against Kilmarnock on the day, and Celtic had luck on their side. And yeah, and Nacho does well to convert the penalty, but yeah, I agree. I don't think it should have been a penalty.
Take it away, Mr. Finlayson.
Yep. I'm not going to go there with the dodgy throw in, Ethan, because you said it yourself, and Stuart Kettlewell said it post match. It doesn't matter which defended that better. But I mean, the Frank Beattie stand side linesman, so the one that you see on camera on Sky, did have an absolute shocker yesterday. But anyway, to the penalty decision and all the refereeing around that, never a penalty, I would say. However, I will, preface it a little bit by saying in the ground, because I'm on the opposite side of the stadium, I didn't have the greatest view of it at the time, but you can kind of tell by the reaction of those around you. And obviously, John Beaton, who's the on-field official, you know, signals for a corner, and everyone thought, right, okay. At this point, come on, if you're not wanting a corner either, but you're like, right, defend the corner, defend your box, and get a point. And then you hear about the VR getting announced, and your heart kind of just sinks, and you just know. And then John Beaton is one of these referees. You'll notice some referees like this who don't always, put the wee signal with their hand towards their ear. But you see him like trot across to the screen, and you're like, oh no. And then when you watch it back, or when I watched it back, like when I got back in here after it dried off, um, just oh my goodness. And the biggest frustration, and I'm backing my manager here. Stuart Kettlewell said it in every bit of post-match media, be it at his press conference or on Sky Sports or whatever. All of the managers and clubs, and so players included, they all were at a meeting at the start of the season, or the SFA go around the clubs and meet and talk through the rule changes and give examples of from the previous season of what's changed and all this. Stuart Kettlewell is adamant, and I am very much on his side here, that he was told in a meeting that instance such as what happened yesterday, where a ball deflects off a teammate and then onto a player's arm at such close proximity, would never be given a penalty. So much so, Stuart Kettlewell was confident enough to say in the media that he didn't even look at it at the time. Like a lot of managers, Stuart Kettlewell has, a monitor via an iPad, in the dugout. He said, I didn't even look at it. I trusted my Canal on this guy to look at it, and they all said it's not a penalty based on what I've been told. Kettlewell then doesn't look at it because he's that confident that this VAR review is going to come to nothing. But honestly, I'm still raging that it's cost us a point. I'm not going to go as far as saying we would have nicked the game. No, I'm not delusional in that sense. However, it's one of those where I think that that's costly, and sometimes, yes, Celtic should beat Kilmarnock. That goes without saying, and decent enough penalty from Ike Iheanacho, of course. But sometimes these decisions cost points, and you don't know what that comes to at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think it comes, maybe it's influenced in the thing you said about Stuart Kettlewell said, Laurie. I don't think the referees should be saying stuff like that because it just sets a dangerous precedent if they do go against it. But Stuart Kettlewell's quite right to say, we've been told this and you've done this. So, and I think another thing that is said is that if the ball hits another body part of the player before it hits their arm, then it shouldn't be a penalty. But I think there is certain instances where both the ball being kicked off both the ball coming off a teammate before hitting an arm and coming off the body part of the player who hits the arm, it doesn't automatically mean it can't be given. But in this instance, it shouldn't have been given because there's nothing Lewis Mayo can do. The ball isn't going to go into the goal. It's just not really a case to give a penalty to Celtic. And yeah, I think they've got this one wrong. And I think when Willie Collum reviews it, I think he'll tell us as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Also,
one thing I will say, and you mentioned it,
go
Ethan,
on.
just quickly, about, the fact one thing is Lewis Mayo's arm is outstretched, which maybe doesn't help him. But here's something, just as a football fan here, and used to having played can probably comment on this a bit more. It's a pet hate of mine when you see players like this, hands behind their back, defending. They shouldn't have to do all that.
It's
That's
really hard to balance. It's like, imagine like running like a marathon or something, and you're trying to change direction, or I don't know, a
I mean,
better way to
without having your arm as leverage, it's just not happening.
yeah, and it's absolutely it's mental. One more thing as well. Laurie mentioned Kelly fans will be raging, cost them a point. Hearts fans will be raging because it's cost them a 2 point lead in their perceived title race so far. I'm not quite there yet to say that Hearts are in the title race because there's always a strong starter, but if we get to December, January, and Hearts are still up there, I will. But that could have been crucial in their hopes of being in a proper title race. And as well, just on handballs as general, I feel like it gets worse and worse every season. And one rule that I don't like is the rule against sort of attackers. Cal McGregor was actually done by it, I think, earlier in the season against St
Oh
Mirren.
yeah, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
The
Yeah,
first game of the season, actually, I think,
yeah.
against St
Aye,
Mirren,
that's the
where it
game.
kind of just like hits his kind of shoulder to
Well,
elbow area, and
Okay,
yeah,
so that's
yeah,
what I heard something, and even it may well have been in the VAR review. I think it was someone, it may have been Willie Collum, but someone high off anyway, basically admitted that if Callum McGregor at that point had been able to pass the ball to a teammate, and then a teammate scores, that goal would have stood.
well,
yeah,
do you think that's as well why maybe why the Shankland goal was allowed also maybe.
yeah. It would have been. It would have been. Yeah,
So yeah, um, I think that wraps up the sort of fixtures for the weekend. I think a lot of top points. This has been a long episode. But Laurie mentioned there VAR review, and I'm going to throw it over to Ethan because it's been a theme of the episode discussing big decisions just from this weekend, and Ethan's got a few of the decisions, the more contentious ones that have been spoken about on the most recent VAR review. I think with Gordon Duncan and Willie Collum.
yeah. One that I'd kind of referenced to there when talking about handball when it comes off another body part was the first one. Willie Collum said that Hibs should have had a penalty for Jaden Richardson's handball for St Mirren against Hibs at Easter Road. I think it was the last set of games where in the dying stages it hits off Richardson's, I think his chest, then it sort of hits his arm, and he looks like he kind of bats it away with his hand, which obviously wasn't given. Willie Collins said that should have been given. I think me and Alex agreed on that. He also said that Alloa shouldn't have conceded a penalty for the handball against Rangers. There was a They made the right decision at Livingston Stadium when Falkirk defender Liam Henderson handballed it. I think we agreed on that one. That was a pretty straightforward one. He did explain why the Callum McGregor one was disallowed, and I don't think we were in disagreement. It wasn't. It was disallowed because it's the rule. But I think you were making the point, Alex, that it is quite a strange rule, and it's one
Yeah.
that should maybe be looked at. The Duseni Gassama decision to award the penalty against Dundee was the correct decision. Willie Collins said. I still disagree with that one personally, but I think that is a very subjective decision. And once they give the penalty on field, I can understand why they didn't overturn it. Now, this one is the worst decision, I think, and they're still sticking by it. Is that it's obviously affected Laurie, this one again, is the George Stanger red card when Robbie Muirhead sort of pulls him back beforehand. They're saying that
Yeah,
Willie Collins.
your head literally manhandles him
Yeah.
before that.
I wasn't sure if we were going to go there, Ethan, but you know what? Since you brought it up, we will. The reason why I think Willie Collum and the refereeing team stick by it, and I'm not sticking up for the refereeing team here because I'm with you guys. It's wrong. I mean, I've only seen the TV footage of that one back. I was I was in Norway at that point. However, if you look at any of the replays that he showed on the VAR review, so presumably, if you include the audio as well, presumably. This is exactly what the VAR people saw. It doesn't actually include the bit where Rowan Muirhead
That's insane, though.
pulls danger. So I wonder whether the refereeing team have to stick by that one again, effectively on a technicality, because can VAR maybe not get involved on what would be effectively either a warning or a simple yellow card, depending on the circumstance, can't remember, for Robbie Muirhead.
It's insane though, because
It is.
we
It's
put
really insane.
technicalities like that, like the handball rule for attack for players in the attacking phase of play and stuff like that. It's mental because, you know, Muirhead's literally just he's fouled him.
Yeah.
He's
I
fouled him,
mean,
and he's actually caused. I think Stanger was in control of that
yeah,
situation until he was pulled back, and then in a desperate attempt to get back ahead of Muirhead, he pulls on him because
yeah.
he's been pulled out the road first, and he probably thinks in his mind at the time it's a bit of give and go, give what you get,
Aye.
that kind of thing, and a bit of I don't know, rough and tumble, I guess you could call it. And they're both having a go at each other, but he's the one that gets penalised for it in the end. And it's absolutely mental.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Personally, and I'll say this, even as a Commanders fan, I have no issue in theory with a player being sent off, so George Stanger being sent off for that. I have no issue with that because, of course, your last man, denying goals for an opportunity, etc., etc. But sometimes you just need VAR, and I know it may be an IFAB problem and not an SFA or SFL problem. You just need VAR to be given a little bit more scope, so they're a bit kind of less short-sighted almost. That was quite a short-sighted one. Where if you
Mm.
saw the pool before, the pool itself, them from Muirhead on Stanger, that would have been penalised, and then it would never have got to the scenario where Muirhead is pulled to the ground.
Here's an
It does
interesting
look like
question. Sorry, here's an interesting question I've got for you. In that scenario, would would that possibly be a case where a blue card could be implemented?
You know what?
what's the blue cards meaning again? Oh yeah, that's the
It's like sin bin. It's like the kind of
oh
rugby
yeah,
sin bin, right?
oh
Um,
yeah, for this now.
that's something I've not thought about for a while, but actually that would maybe be one of the ones where a blue card would maybe be more appropriate. And who knows? Well, a blue card could Kelly have went on to actually still win the game? Because that penalty from memory only got it to 2-1. Kelly was 2-0 up at that point.
Yeah.
So you don't
Come on,
know.
we're on 4 points already this season. No, I agree with you guys, and it looked like on the YouTube video that maybe the VR didn't show the full context of the clip, but even when Gordon Duncan asked Willie Collum said not enough contact to give a foul on Stanger, which I disagree with. And then the final one, which is quite a
There was more contact from Muirhead on Stanger than Stanger on Muirhead.
I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, but no, I do think it was a foul on him first. And the final one, which I think me and Alex were in agreement with last time out, was the Nicky Devlin red card against Falkirk for his follow through, which was the correct decision. You can't tackle like that nowadays. Just a vicious tackle. He looks like he has intentions to follow through. So yeah, I think that was the right decision. So yeah, a few contentious ones still, even after them clearing up a few of the other decisions for us. But yeah, I think we'll see Kelly at the centre point of next month's as well, by the looks of it. But
Well,
I
yeah,
think,
this weekend has already produced a number of potential inclusions in next month's VAR review.
I
Um,
mean,
I'm sure
put it
we'll
this way,
find more in the
for
Premier
those of
Sports Cup.
you For those of you who haven't maybe realised, those who are watching and listening to this, the VAR review is now actually broadcast on TV on Sky Sports, right? Which is great, as well as being on YouTube, both from Sky and from the SFA. But you kind of think as well, with it being on Sky Sports, they're maybe a little bit more restricted to time. They'll have no trouble filling the half an hour, whatever it is this week, or this month, rather.
Well, they could do a weekly one at this point.
Aye.
That wraps it up for our SPFL action. We will be back next week for the Premier Sports Cup. Some interesting ties in there.
do we give quick predictions? Sorry to cut you off, Alex.
If you want. I'll need to pull up the fixtures quickly. I only know a couple off the top of my head. Premier Sports Cup. So we'll start with the Friday night game. Laurie, will you be in attendance?
I will be, yes.
So the Premier Sports Cup quarterfinals, Friday night, Kilmarnock versus St Mirren. Laurie, I'll come to you first. How do you think Kilmarnock will do against the Buddies?
It's tough to call, Alex. You mentioned it earlier in the show, even if it's inadvertently, about how kind of eaksy peaksy the two teams are, and it's hard to go between either of us. I mean, both sets of fans have been delighted with that draw, but I feel like we have an edge as we're at home, under the lights, on the telly. Let's get ourselves back to Hampden, and hopefully, in the semis, hopefully we can maybe, not get Celtic this time. Right, let's take the score though. I'm saying 2-1 to Kelly.
Okay.
I agree. I'm going 2-1 Kelly.
All right. I'm going to be unpopular here. I'm going to go with 2 each. I'm going to go with St Mirren to win on penalties.
Yeah,
Oh, well, that happened before that happened in the Scottish Cup quarters in 2021. That precise thing happened. I think it was 2 each.
All right,
Oh,
Roger
I don't want to flashback, but cheers.
Calm down, Roger Hara Jr. over here. So we've got on the Saturday, the 3 o'clock kickoff is Aberdeen versus Motherwell. We spoke about it earlier in the show. I'll give my prediction first on this one. I'm going to go with Motherwell to get their first win of the season. Well, obviously they won the last round, but their first win in a few games. Hopefully getting a little run for them. I'm going to go with 2-1 to Motherwell.
Going 3-2 Motherwell after extra time.
3-2 Motherwell after extra time. Wow.
Don't be
that'll,
mad,
be an,
man.
that'll be an entertaining one.
I was going to go a bit more boring, but kind of, course, of the same vein. So I'm going to say 1-0 Motherwell. And what I mean that, of course, it'd be their first win over Premiership opposition. But of course, bear in mind, they had to go into extra time to get by Championship St Johnstone in the previous round.
Okay. Right. Moving on to Rangers versus Hibs at 6:45 on the Saturday. Ethan, what do you make of this? What do you think is going to be the score?
I really can't see past Hibs winning, to be honest with you. I mean, surely, well, you would think at one point the fortunes are going to turn for Russell Martin, but it's getting to the point where I don't believe they are. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Hibs and Russell Martin to lose his job following it. That's my prediction.
He shouldn't even be in the job come Saturday. Laurie, what's your prediction for this game?
I'm going to say, like, even 2-1 to Hibs. Hibs are not going to Hibs it, at least not at that stage. I mean, Ibrox, they say it's a tough place to go, but I'm not so sure. But I'm going to say, Alex, that Russell Martin will miraculously keep his job. And also, Alex, you asked me, so I'll ask you, will you be in attendance?
No, I actually won't because I'm out for a mate's birthday on Saturday.
I
So
think that's for the better.
Oh,
Happy birthday to your
lucky.
mate when it comes.
yeah, I'm enjoying escapes right now from football. I do enjoy talking about it in general. I just don't enjoy talking about Rangers right now. So for my prediction, I'm going to go with that blind delusion again, that blind optimism. This is going to be the game where it all turns around. I'm going to
Sets himself up for failure every time, Laurie.
I'm gonna
Yep.
I'm gonna go for 2-0 to Rangers. And I'm gonna go even further and say Bojan Miovski to get a brace. There we go. So moving on to the Sunday game, Partick
We'll
Thistle.
do that. Just quickly, gamble responsibly, folks, right?
Yeah, did I say a betting thing there? What's going
No,
No, just don't start. Just don't bet on Rangers.
on? All
Anybody,
right. Oh,
please.
that completely flew over my head. That was a really good joke. I apologise, Laurie. All right. Moving on to the final game of the weekend, Partick Thistle versus Celtic. Partick Thistle hosting Celtic, and Mark Wilson hosting his old side. Laurie, what do you make of this one?
I think, I mean, of course, Firhill's not a place that Celtic are that used to going these days, you know, after Partick tasted relegation, and what would that be now, 2018? But like, you know, I think Celtic will win fairly comfortably. I'm saying 3-0 to Celtic, and you'll probably hear Mark Wilson on Clay 1.
Ethan?
I'm going to go with similar score. I think Partick Thistle will get a goal because they've been pretty decent recently, but I'm going to go 3-1 Celtic. They haven't lost to Partick Thistle in their last. They beat Partick Thistle in the last 8 occasions and they haven't lost in the last 21 plus matches. So, yeah, I don't see Partick Thistle getting a result, unfortunately, for Mark Wilson.
Mark Wilson's men, record breakers. I'm going to go Partick Thistle 1, Celtic 1, Partick Thistle to win on penalties. No, my real prediction is 2-0 Celtic. But so, if we are all correct, your guys' I think you all chose the same. Your guys' Premier Sports Cup semi-finalists would be Kilmarnock, Motherwell, Hibs and Celtic, and mine would be St Mirren, Motherwell, Rangers and Celtic. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I'm right. You know, Rangers wise, Laurie, I'm not wishing anything ill upon Kilmarnock, but hopefully I'm right for the sake of my own mental
To be
health.
fair, the Kelly one's a hard one to predict, so I think I'm not holding it against you at all. May the best team win on Friday.
Or I might just change to wind up Ryan if he's watching and go 5-0 Kelly.
Yeah, that's what we should do.
Yeah, so that's my final prediction. But anyway, it's been a good episode. It's been a long one. It's been good to have Laurie back, 3 of us on, for a change. So yeah, thank you to everyone for watching and listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Go check out the Twitter at the Dugout 2024. Go and check out the TikTok at the Dugout, where I've been delivering daily news. I've had a couple of days off recently because I've actually been a bit sick, but yeah, I'm back on it now, and yeah, thank you to everyone again. Goodbye.